Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It's Tuesday, and all of our guests today, including Craig Button, standing by in Nova Scotia, brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Craig Button joining us. Craig, thanks for doing this, sir. TSN Scouting Director, how are you?
I am great. It's a pleasure to join you all the way from the East Coast.
Yeah. You've worn some outstanding shirts through the years on our show. This might be the top of the list, Craig.
Oh, well, thank you, gentlemen, very much. And Rick was speechless. Like that tells me everything I need to know. But I guess now I have to just raise the bar a little bit higher at some point here in the next little while.
We look forward to that. Okay. We've received in our Bayside Oceanfront Resort inbox several inquiries about this young man. He's from Langley, plays for the Regina Pats. I believe he's at the Under-17 challenge that you're at in Nova Scotia. What can you tell us about 15-year-old Liam Pugh, again, from Langley, playing for the Regina Pats?
In a word, he's outstanding, and he's a 15-year-old. Max Schultz was the first overall pick in the Bantam draft, and Liam Pugh was the third overall pick. They play together. They're 15-year-old players playing against competition just at the U17 that are majority are a year older than them, and they're two of the best players here. Liam is highly skilled. He's highly competitive, and you watch somebody at that age be able to play the game at the pace and at the intensity that is required. I mean, you're looking at a star, and there's no question when you start looking ahead to the 2028 NHL draft, you're going to hear the name Liam Pugh and you're going to hear the name Max Schultz really, really early in the first couple of picks. I mean, they went 1 and 3 in the Western Hockey League Bantam draft. They could go 1-2, 2-1 in the NHL draft. That's how good they are. And let me emphasize about Liam and Maddox. They play the game hard, they play it smart, and they got an enormous amount of skill.
Yeah. Good on the hockey fans in Regina. They get to see Connor Bedard for a couple of years, and now Liam. Good on them. Hey, Canucks over Nashville 5-4 in overtime. Craig, I know they're probably not going to win the Stanley Cup, but the Canucks are 7-7, injury riddled. Adam Foote seems to be doing a pretty good job there. Just your thoughts on your impressions on them having a .500 record.
I'm impressed, Donnie and Rick. And I think that there's one thing you can always control. You can control how you want to play as a group and be connected. That's a word we use. But most importantly, how you're going to compete, how you're going to dig in and compete. They were up in that game 4-2, and then, the game gets into a tie 4-4, and they just kept playing, and ultimately with very little time on the clock. And Elias Pettersson made a great play and a good example of what he needs to do more of, staying on the puck. And he didn't let himself, get pushed away. He ended up getting a stick on that puck, comes right to Besser, ends up being the winning goal. But they play hard and they play smart. And I really believe, guys, and I really do, is that last year, that Abbotsford Canucks team that won the championship, it's hard to win a championship at any level. And when you watch some of the players that are now on this team for the Vancouver Canucks, like the Canucks are benefiting from what those guys went through, that call it the dig-in, call it the compete, call it the fire. And that's what you need. And I think the Canucks have done a really nice job of that. Obviously, Thatcher Demko back in the net, healthy, is a big boost. Kevin Lankinen is a really good tandem goalie along with Thatcher. Tommy Willander looks like he's a keeper now. Quinn Hughes is still not 100%. And when I say 100%, I'm talking about 100% in his conditioning and playing regularly. But, you cannot be anything but impressed with what I call the moxie of this this Canucks team.
Craig, you mentioned Tom Willander. He didn't have a great start to the season. We know his skating's elite. We know it's going to keep him in the league for years. But the offense, you see him carry the puck up the ice last night with poise. Like Craig, if he can do that more often. I mean, this guy, he is really playing with a lot of confidence in about the last 3 or 4 games, Craig.
You know, Rick, when you're not sure if you belong, you might play like you're not sure you belong, and there might be a little bit of tentativeness and a little bit of hesitation in his game. And I've watched Tommy for a long time, since the time he was 16. When you watch him at 16, you can see some of what we saw at the beginning of the year, a little bit of not as assured. And then as time went on, he just became more and more and more forceful. And I think that's what you're seeing. And Tommy doesn't lack confidence, but you got to build your confidence. It's no different than when you're trying to build your cardiovascular strength or your physical strength. There's a process to it, and there's no question that as he sees a belonging in the NHL and he sees a capability from his skill set in the NHL, I think that helps him grow, and it's going to help the Vancouver. Now, listen, I love him. I think he's a terrific competitor. I think he's a player that can be a difference maker. And now you start to look at it. You start to look with Philip Hronek and Quinn Hughes there. Well, now you got three defensemen. You know, the other Pettersson.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden you got five defensemen that like now you got a good blue line, and they all have different elements. And I think that really helps the team be successful ultimately. And if Tommy Willander can hold his form, it's going to be sooner rather than later.
Hey, Craig, I got to ask you about a local kid from Coquitlam, 18-year-old Ben Kandell. 5 goals. I mean, he's 18. Great family, sports, mom and dad, great soccer players, but he's blowing everyone away, Craig, this kid.
Yeah, he has. And we talked about Ben and we talked about what a good player he was. And, you know, do I think 18-year-old players are ready for the NHL? The vast majority of cases, the answer is no. But, you know, when you go to camp and you're given an opportunity and then you continue to show that you belong, and the tests only become more severe as time goes on, whether it be in training camp and preseason games. He's passed the 10-game threshold now in the NHL, and you're watching a player that is showing no signs of not being able to help a team and contribute. I was in Winnipeg on last Thursday and Saturday for the Pittsburgh game, and Friday I was talking to the assistant coaches, Mike Stuthers, Rich Clune, Nick Bonino, and they couldn't stop raving about how smart he is and how well he understands the game. And you know, I asked Rich Clune, who was part of the Toronto organization for a number of years. I said, would it be fair to say you could call him a lowercase Mitch Marner with the hockey sense and just with the size he's at? Rich said, totally fair to say that. And he's got that type of intelligence. So as long as you're holding your own, and he's more than holding his own, he is really playing well there. They have him on the power play. They have him playing in the middle of the ice. There's no reason to believe that he's not going to continue on his ways, because I think like Tommy Willander, he just keeps building his confidence. Say, hey, I can play here, and now he's showing that he can be a contributor there.
You mentioned Nova Scotia. You make regular stops in Toronto. Your home base is Calgary, but you also said you just spent some time in Winnipeg. Craig, what do you like about the 9-3 Winnipeg Jets having a great start?
Yeah, one of the things, I'm a huge believer in this, and I think it's a tenet of good teams. You run into injuries. Good teams don't capsize because of injury. Yes, you miss those players. Yes, you know you're going to be stronger and better when they come back. No Lowry to start the season. No Sandberg to start the season. No Perfetti to start the season. Lowry's going to return tonight in LA. And you find out that other players can do more. You find out players given opportunity can fill a hole. Now you're not going to be able to compete at the highest level if you don't have your best players available. We know that. But good teams find ways to win games. And I think that's been the most impressive thing. Morgan Barron has stepped in. You have Alex Iafallo, Vladimir Namestnikov, just players that aren't household names. Tanner Pearson's fit in there nice. And I just think as time goes on, you see that players can fill these different roles. And for Scott Arniel and the coaching staff, that's comforting to know, not think, but to know that if somebody goes down, okay, this is the fix here. This is where we can put somebody in that role. And I'd be remiss in not mentioning how great Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor have been, not just offensively, but defensively as well. They've been killing penalties. They've been taking on a bigger defensive load in Adam Lowry's absence. Been really good. And with Lowry coming back, I think it just makes a Jonathan Toews who just keeps steadily improving and becoming more impactful that much better with the front end support with Scheifele and the back end support with Lowry.
And Mark wants to get that call from Team Canada. Very quickly,
Yes.
Craig, Matthew Schaefer, we talked about this, I believe, yesterday on the show. Has he been better than expected?
I don't think anybody could say otherwise. I think Matt Schaefer would say the same thing. But Matt is a wonderful player. He's a wonderful human being. And one thing that he's always had is that he's going to learn, and he can learn quick. He doesn't try to be a perfect player. He tries to be an impactful player. You guys, like I think you remember Troy Polamalu, who was a great player for the Pittsburgh Steelers, at USC.
Head and shoulders.
And head and shoulders, right? And he had great instincts for the game. He would do things. He would say, "You didn't put that in the playbook. You didn't draw that up." But he had those instincts that said, "This is the play I got to make." That's Matthew Schaefer, and I think Matthew Schaefer, with his great skills and those instincts, he's already looking like a surefire superstar for the New York Islanders.
We look forward to next week's shirt, Craig. All the best. Safe travels in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, fresh clams here. It's the best. I might be having them 5 nights in a row.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Give us a report next week.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, you bet. I'm not a clam fan.
No, I'm not a seafood guy.
Yeah.
He's a seafood guy.
I'm a seafood guy, but clams, I've got I could do a 2-hour show on them.